Alright, MrSotko here, and welcome back to another Company Heroes 2 replay cast. And today it is a 1 vs 1 on Faymonville Approach. And this is the first time I actually casted a game on Faymonville Approach because actually it's not that played that often. And our players we have down here are Mystery Smurf, Kim Jong-un, and I'll let you guys figure out who that is. Although I think it's fairly obvious by now, but the blue Russian player SturmTigerSage6. So we'll see how this goes, and again, this is the first time I cast this map, and the victory points go right across the center of the map, diagonally, and the fuel point is right next to the victory points from either side. And the munitions point is down here and all the way up here. So very easy to get the munitions points for the respective sides, but pretty hard to get the middle side, as neither really side is closer to one side or the other.
You need something built?
Pioneer Squad's taking the center victory point here. Actually, just going right to this building here. Going to garrison inside that and defend that area as they just took the first territory point. 2 grenadiers out for the Wehrmacht. And for the blue Russian player, we have 3 conscripts. So lots of infantry this time. No MGs right off the start. Engineers trying to take the fuel point, but getting interrupted by these grenadiers here, and the grenadiers will beat those engineers. However, the engineers are now inside the building, all garrisoned up, so they do have some pretty good defense in there. But now they decide to get out and just going to battle it out with these grenadiers, but that's not going to work. So going back in the house once more. Now conscripts down here at this bottom fuel point, the left side fuel point rather, and getting some sandbags up here, and they are free, so why not? More grenadiers coming up onto this area here with their fuel point and chasing away these grenadiers, or these engineers, and they couldn't take the heat there, so they're gonna have to run away from that building. Engineers here putting some barbed wire right across this area here, making it a little bit hard for troops to actually just auto move down this way. Although you can easily hop this fence if you select down here with your troops and you don't realize that there's barbed wire here. They're gonna have to run all the way around the long way. So that's gonna slow his opponent down just a little bit. Now conscripts taking the northern munitions point here. And at the same time, we have conscripts taking the southern munitions point and making some sandbags down there as well. Grenadiers going to chase away these conscripts here, and they're going to retake this perhaps, but however, there's some more conscripts coming to support these conscripts behind the truck here, and they're all in really good cover. And these conscripts are going to just annihilate these grenadiers because they're just getting the side fire, getting flanked right there. And these grenadiers here aren't in very good cover. So I think these conscripts will win out on this. However, they neutralized this munitions territory. So they're going to have to retake that. Now, engineers taking the fuel point here on the left side. And they're going to at least neutralize that. And these conscripts here making several sandbags down at the bottom. Not so sure the point of that so much. Oh, that is actually to prevent them from getting to these sandbags here and using them against him. Now these engineers are moving right up on these conscripts, going to do big damage with their machine guns, although the MP40 isn't a very good gun in this game. But up close, that close, it does do pretty good damage. Now Grenadiers chasing these conscripts away and probably going to take the fuel point away from them. Also going to take the munitions point, should he choose to keep his engineers there. Conscripts are oorahing now forward to this victory point, going to get right up on these Grenadiers here and probably finish them off, as the Grenadiers are at half health here. So they're going to start losing troops very, very quickly because they are at low health. When your troops are at low health, they will die off much quicker than if they have full health. Now max them out for the Russian, and at the very same time, MG42 coming out for the Wehrmacht. So at the same time, both players getting MGs there. So we'll see how that plays out. And these engineers taking the center victory point. However, getting chased away by grenadiers. And I'm going to go ahead and garrison up inside this house here. Lots of windows in the front here to attack these grenadiers. So they're not going to be limited to just one window like in some houses and some garrison buildings. MG forcing away these grenadiers here. Suppress them temporarily, but they're going to crawl right out of that arc and get up very soon here. Now engineers coming back out, going to try and take this victory point, and conscripts are also pushing forward. Probably going to get some cover right about here and assault these grenadiers here. Decides to oorah right up to the brick wall here, rock wall, and just going to go right up in their faces and point blank fire at each other. Conscripts up here taking this territory. Conscripts against these grenadiers here, and with this additional conscript squad here, going to really wreck these grenadiers pretty bad, as they are right up in each other's faces and doing pretty big damage to each other there. So those Grenadiers are going to have to retreat out of there very soon. Conscripts won out on those Grenadiers, and so they won the territory point as well. However, they're going to lose out to these Grenadiers, more additional Grenadiers coming around to flank them as well. So chasing those all out of there. Conscripts going to be taking this fuel point back should they move just back just a little bit. There they go. And now these conscripts over here are going to take this territory point. So lots of territory being taken by the Russians at the moment. Territory being taken by these Grenadiers as well. And the Wehrmacht owns a very large portion of the map. All the southern portion is pretty much owned by the Wehrmacht. Nobody has decided to take this territory point, although it isn't very strategically viable to take that point. It is free resources, and you can just take it and run. And I don't think anybody else would really contest it all that much. These conscripts here behind sandbags, but the sandbags weren't completed, so they really weren't getting the cover from that. And Grenadiers going to be moving up to the fuel point here. These conscripts were over on the right side, and they only had 3. So he's retreating those out of there so he doesn't lose those to an engagement. And is taking some shots here. May lose 1 troop, but kind of doubt it. Seems like he's running away pretty good there. So the Russian player owning 2 victory points so far. Scores so far, Russians at 458 and the Wehrmacht at 463. Changed just as I was saying it. Now the conscripts trying to take this fuel point here, but getting assaulted by this MG42. They're getting suppressed here, and if they get pinned, they will not be able to take this. If your troops are absolutely pinned with the red exclamation point, they will not be able to take territory. And we also have an MG in this building as well, but it's just out of range to be able to assault this MG in this house. Now we have Grenadiers coming up as well to attack those conscripts taking that territory, so I don't think they're going to be able to take that for very long, and if they do, they're just going to get chased away sooner or later. Conscripts and a flamethrower engineer chasing away some Grenadiers over here, and they neutralize this territory. The Germans neutralize the territory, so the Russians are going to have to go ahead and take that back, and Grenadiers on fire there, running away, down to 2 in that squad. Grenadiers over here now taking over the sandbag position for some really good cover here, and also taking the fuel point at the same time, so a win-win for the Wehrmacht there. Engineers taking this right side territory point, so they will own that. A little bit of additional resources for them. Again, I'd like to see somebody take this, and just now they're taking it. I would like to see that a little bit earlier. That would have been some decent resources to accumulate. It is 7 minutes into the game, so he would have gotten quite a bit of a decent amount of resources from that at least. Now trying to complete this further sandbag wall here, but he's just going to stop. He doesn't want to complete that, so his opponent cannot use it against him. His opponent's going to have a very hard time getting in here with these sandbags that are half completed here. Grenadiers still holding the position down here. And with these sandbags half completed, it's very hard to get around them. As you can see, you'd have to run your troops all the way around, and you would not be able to use this sandbag as cover. So at best, he can only use this fence here, which is only going to give him minor cover, which the Russian troops would destroy the German troops should they be in minor cover and them in better cover. Cover some engineers getting a pretty good flank here. Didn't really account for this flank here. 2-star conscript now, and battling out with these engineers, and the engineers are losing out pretty quickly here because these engineers flanked these ones just as they did. Now Grenadiers moving on in. Going to want to get these conscripts out of here as he's down to 2 in a sliver of health, so he's going to start losing those very quickly. Engineers going to be trying to burn out these Grenadiers, but just not enough. And they took some AoE damage there, but not enough. Now we have a half-track with the quad cannon on the back out in the field and replacing the sandbag bunker. It must have been run over or blown up in some way. And now we have conscripts moving forward, taking the bottom munitions point and hide behind these sandbags for some good cover at the same time. Grenadiers taking the fuel point and munitions point at the top. So 2 really good takes here, the fuel point and the munitions. So a lot of resources incoming for the Wehrmacht. However, at the same time, the Russian is taking the mirrored side, taking the fuel point and the munitions point for himself on the other side of the map. So pretty much equal. Now the Germans taking the right side victory point as well, but that's still only going to leave them with 1 victory point out of the 3. So they're still going to need either the center or the bottom victory point to start turning this game around. Engineers are setting up some TM35 mines here in the middle of the road, just preparing for the late game, and this is always good to do if you have some extra munitions. Just put some mines down on the road where you think some tanks are going to be later on in the game, or you can even lure them there later should you have the ability to do so. because one shot from these mines, if a tank runs over these mines, does incredible damage to him. Typically does not kill a medium or a heavy tank in one blow, but will almost destroy its engine, and it will be very, very slow. It'll have a hard time getting out of there, and it will also force your opponent to repair that tank, which does take time, and time in this game is one of the valuable resources. Now, moving these conscripts out of here, I'm not sure if I agree so much with that. They could have taken this munitions point and maybe only lost one troop, or they could have moved back out of the range of the scout car. But better safe than sorry, I do suppose. Gonna be taking this. Looks like they'll just barely get it before they're gonna have to get out of there, as these grenadiers are gonna force them away. Now an Su-76 on the way here, and the half-track quad cannon. So big firepower coming in for the Russians here. Now a barrage coming in on these grenadiers, missing those grenadiers. Now those grenadiers are gonna be moving out of the way. They tried to move out of the way, but the inaccuracy of the Su-76 is a blessing in some ways. As you can see, even though you move your troops out of the way of its probably main fire, which was right about here, it's so inaccurate that even if you move your troops out of the way, sometimes it still hits you. And that's why I love the Su-76, because it is so versatile. And if you have 2 or 3 of them all firing at once, the radius of the fire and the randomization of it decimates enemy troops, because you just can't find a good spot to avoid the Su-76 unless you just run entirely out of the area. Engineers putting up some razor wire here, which is going to be hard for the Wehrmacht to get through. And I'm not sure if the scout car can get through razor wire or not. Actually, we're about to find out. Indeed, runs it over. The scout car indeed can go through razor wire. Now Grenadiers moving forward here, but there's some conscripts in their way inside this house here, so that's going to give them a hard time, but they're going to try and move around, going to try and get up there, but don't think they're going to be able to do so good against those conscripts inside that house. As there is a 1-star conscript inside a house, very good cover, so they'll be fighting it out for a while. However, the problem with this house is there's not many windows. As you can see, only 1 troop is in this window here. Now a second one just now getting in this window. So only 2 troops are actually firing at these Grenadiers. So that's something you have to take into consideration when you have your troops inside of a building. Now this half-track in big trouble here. The Puma hits it 1 time there. Looks like it hit it. The Pac 40 may have hit it the second time there, I believe, and took it out. Battle's still raging down here, and you can see these conscripts losing because only 2 are fighting at the same time. However, they got their 2nd star from that battle, so that is pretty good for them. MG42 is set up inside this house, but it is getting barraged by this Su-76. You can see how good that barrage is. Just fire it at a building, and it forces troops out of there. Puma trying to move up forward here, but doesn't want to get in the range of that Su-76, because the Su-76 will hit that Puma pretty hard, as it is light armored. Down to 2 conscripts inside this house, losing this battle, even though they have the better cover. Indeed, because they only have 2 windows to fire out of. So going to want to get those out of there very soon. Russians trying to take the right side back, taking the munitions point and the right side victory point. Not sure how long it's going to last, as he's going to bring some troops up there eventually to stop that. Indeed, another scout car coming up with the 2-centimeter cannon. Going to take out these troops very, very quickly. Not even sure if they're going to be able to capture the victory point. Maybe. Looks like they threw an anti-tank mine, damaged the engine, so that he's going to force that out of there. Going to force a repair on that, so that will be out of the game for a moment. Engineers trying to move up on these Grenadiers here, and they do have that flamethrower, so if these Engineers can get into better cover here, they'll probably win out on those Grenadiers, but now that the Grenadiers are too far away, I think the Engineers are going to be in trouble. Now repairing up this scout car here, and trying to battle off these conscripts here that are desperately trying to take this right side victory point. So far, it's taken another squad to come over here, and if he can just take this real quick and then retreat, it will set the Wehrmacht back a little bit, as he's going to have to get back in there and neutralize it and then take it back. So that's going to take him a little bit of time. Now we have a mortar out for the Wehrmacht, and he's just raining down. And it looks like we have a mortar for the Russian player as well. So both teams just firing at each other now, barraging this mortar team here, and going to force it away. Doesn't want to risk taking a direct hit from that barrage. Could destroy the whole squad, potentially, if he was lucky enough. These conscripts trying to hold out against this MG and now the Puma firing at them, but they are pinned, and you can see once your troops are pinned, you cannot take a territory, and it's just going right back to neutralization. So he's just going to have to run out of there. He doesn't really have a choice. mortar setup, and we still have the MG setup in this building here. A pretty good spot for this building, as it's very hard to go up this way with that MG firing at you. Now 2 Su-76 on the field, something I agree with. I cannot ever disagree with multiple Su-76. And there goes a pretty good hit there. Took out one of those grenadiers, also did a lot of damage to them, so now they're very weak, the remaining 3. And not using the barrage on one of them. The barrage isn't down, or is not ready. The cooldown is still up on that second Su-76, so can't use that second one just yet. Should start firing at this Puma here. Now bringing up that Pak-40, and the Pak-40 indeed beats the Su-76, as that is the Su-76's worst enemy. However, you can barrage that Pak-40. What I like to do with a Su-76 is typically not on a Pak-40, but you can get up very, very close, about this far from your opponent, and then barrage, and the barrage is extremely accurate at that point, and you'll hit enemy infantry directly with that Su-76 and do incredible damage to them, sometimes destroying a whole squad in one hit. And taking a hit with that Puma by that Su-76, so doing big damage, maybe 1 or 2 hits on that Puma. Ostreppen now inside this building here, trying to fire back at this MG, but probably not going to last too long there, as indeed they are Ostreppen and typically weaker troops, but they are 2-star Ostreppen, so not a bad call-in. He called in the Ostreppen, and he got 2 Ostreppen, both of them 2-star veterans, so not too bad of a call-in there. There definitely are worse combinations. The best Ostreppen you can hope to call in is a 3-star Ostreppen with an LMG. And that is the best one you can hope for. Actually, 2 of them at once. 2 3-stars with both with LMGs, but that is a very rare situation. Grenadiers probably going to try and get in this house here, defend this area from the Russian advance here. And he's got Ostreppen over here as well to defend. However, these Su-76 are set up in front of this house. So if he notices these Grenadiers, he could choose to barrage this house, as one of the barrages is almost ready here. Indeed ready now. Could barrage that house, but decides to take it elsewhere. And the Wehrmacht own it a large portion of the map. Wehrmacht owning the right side and the bottom side here, the northern side, if you will, and the bottom side. So they have a horseshoe situation around the Russians on the map, as you can see there. Taking a look, they do have that horseshoe around the Russians, so he's going to have to break out from that. But that does mean that that Russian has options available to him. He can either decide to take the south or the north, along with keeping the center. So he does have 2 options there, and he can choose whichever one's the weakest and then go there. Looks like he's obviously choosing the southern end here. Now a Panzer IV command tank moving on up. A Panzer IV command tank not quite as good as the Panzer IV itself, as the Panzer IV command tank only does 80 damage rather than 160, I believe. Last time I looked up its stats anyway, so it does about half the damage, and it has only 55 penetration, so it has very little penetration compared to the normal Panzer IV. However, with that shorter barrel, it does pretty good damage to troops, so it does fair damage to tanks and fair damage to troops as well. So it's a pretty useful tank, and it's very cheap to bring in. As you can see, it's only 125 and 360, and that means you don't even have to tech with your Wehrmacht. As you can see, you don't even have to really tech. So you can just call it in. And so that is one of the advantages as well, is you can just call it in. You don't have to waste the money. You don't have to waste the fuel teching. You don't have to waste the time, because you also have to get the battle phase and then build a building. Instead, you can just call in the Panzer IV, the command tank.
Enemy forces are securing our territory.
Now a KV-8 out on the field for the Russian player here. So 2 Su-76 and a KV-8. So the KV-8 just going to be used as a flamethrower mostly. And you can see the damage of the KV-8. The KV-8 is amazing. Its flamethrower does incredible damage, incredible range on it as well. Trying to back up these Su-76, trying to get up here with Grenadiers. Looks like he was trying to get into a Panzerfaust on these Su-76, but they got away just in time there. Now the KV-8 trying to back up, taking hits from this Puma. Fortunately for the KV-8, the KV-8's armor is very, very tough, but he was facing the opposite way. He was facing the wrong way of his opponent there. SturmTigerSage using the Soviet industry tactics. So he does have some repair stations here, but it looks like that repair station was not completed. And now trying to get out of there. So the Su-76 now set up. And so he's got a problem here with this Pak-40, Puma, and this command tank. He's trying to deal with all of those at once. So very, very frustrating here. Lots of micro being involved. The northern side still belonging to the Wehrmacht. The southern side still belonging to the Wehrmacht as well. So the horseshoe around the Russians is taking an effect. However, the Russian has a much higher score, 407 to 274, so he can hold out. He can afford to hold out for quite a while here. But he does not want to lose this middle one. If he loses that middle one, he will be going down by 3 per tick, and that will be much faster than, obviously, 2 per tick. So with the Su-76 setup, he's building a new repair station with his engineers up here, which will automatically repair his troops, unique to the Soviet industry tactics. Another commander for the Russians that I do not have, that I also should have. The other one I don't have is the Tank Hunter tactics. I wish I also had that one. The one that gives the conscripts PTRS rifles. I think that would be a fun commander to use. Barrage in this area here, but there's nothing left in here. So not really going to hit anything. And we have the fuel and the victory point and the munitions point down here still being uncontested by the Russians, as he just can't really get up there. There's just too much stuff for the Germans here. The Pak-40, the Panzer IV, and the Puma here, ready to attack any armor that comes through this area. Well, the KV-8 is being repaired, trying to repair it anyway. Built a second repair station, so he has many, many engineers here to repair up his troops. Using the KV-8 to burn out these Grenadiers. Grenadiers taking huge damage from that KV-8. And now down to 2 in that squad. KV-8, though, taking hits, and he needs to watch out. Although the KV-8 isn't a very expensive tank, so it's sort of cheap to call in. Gonna lose that KV-8, and that was an unnecessary loss for the Russian player. Didn't really need to lose that. Could have backed that up easily enough, but was showing his side armor, and took too many hits in that side armor, and lost that KV-8. If his KV-8 was faced forward, he would definitely not have lost that KV-8 that quickly, because the frontal armor on the KV-8 is actually pretty good. And I'm not sure, it's sort of odd that this... Oh, okay, that's a mortar under there. I thought that KV-8 was recapturable or abandoned, and which seemed really odd to me because it is a burning wreckage. Scout car is up here defending this area. It doesn't really have anything to do up there, but until some units decide to go up that way. Now starting to lose pretty quickly here. 340 lost the third victory point here. Puma's now moved up on that Su-76. Su-76 took the hit from the Pak-40 and the Puma at once, losing that Su-76. Another big loss for the Russian player, but bringing out a second Su-76, technically a third Su-76, but now his second Su-76. And the playback is now over, and I'm assuming that SturmTigerSage had quit this game. Can't really actually tell from that, but he was losing pretty bad, so I'd like to assume that he was the loser of this game, as he was losing all... He did not have access to any victory point whatsoever, and the Wehrmacht was really just taking it to him, as he was losing way too many troops here. So I'd be very surprised if it was Kim Jong-un that left this game. But I hope you guys enjoyed this replay, and I will see you guys next time.